It is the morning after Computex, and I feel like I have a Computex hangover. I realized that what I was saying in a lot of the videos probably isn't coherent, so I figured I'd try to get my thoughts out this morning before I leave Taipei. But first, I'm gonna duck into this 7-Eleven and get myself a coffee. Super excited. But Computex is super overwhelming. Now, I know going into it that I was gonna see a lot of AI stuff, but what I didn't realize is that it's pretty much all AI. With NVIDIA now becoming a full stack AI infrastructure, data build, everything about AI, you could tell that it's had a ripple effect through all of Computex. It seems like for this first round, NVIDIA is pretty much telling people what to build by giving them the reference design and pitting them against each other. At least that's what it seems to me. Because a lot of the hardware looked exactly the same. If you saw one Vera Rubin, you saw many other Vera Rubins with slight tweaks to cooling and how it connects to the data center infrastructure. But for the most part, a lot of it was the same. It's kind of the same thing with the RTX Spark. Same thing we saw with the GB10 platform in general. Everyone has their own take on it, but for the most part, they're exactly the same. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the RTX Spark, not because it's running Windows, that's a whole different problem in itself, but more so on the CPU side of that, because when I tested the GB10 platform, the unified memory that you got was pretty big, though a little bit slower, but it was the CPU that lacked a little bit. Yes, you get a lot of cores, but those cores were a little bit slow doing, day-to-day work. So if they're bringing this platform to end users for agentic type work, we might want to keep an eye on that CPU. And we might want to keep an eye on that CPU for other things too, right? Windows uses a lot of CPU for a lot of different tasks, and a lot of applications use the CPU. I'm not even going to go into compatibility and getting applications working on Windows on ARM. That's its own challenge. My perspective was more about the hardware being able to keep up with what people want to do on those platforms. And life hack, compression socks are awesome. Don't knock it till you try it. So while everything was dedicated to AI infrastructure, build your own AI cloud, AI on the desktop, AI on the edge, and AI everywhere, kind of like Sriracha, you just put that stuff on everything. I did try to find some things that weren't AI related, or some things that were just kind of weird or caught my eye. Another interesting thing I saw was this MINIX, I think TP5000. It was pretty interesting, not because it was being pushed as a local inference machine or a local AI machine, but because it was using the Thor platform over the GB10 platform. And so the Thor platform is kind of a low-powered version of AI on the edge, so very similar to the GB10, but lower power and meant for robotics. Well, this company is putting the NVIDIA Thor inside of one of their mini PCs and selling it as an alternative to the Spark. But what I noticed is it doesn't have the networking. If it has 128 gigs of DDR5 or unified memory, and it has similar performance to the Spark, maybe it will be a little more affordable. And even though it seems like the entire market is focused on AI right now, I did see a lot of gaming hardware, gaming peripherals, and even gaming machines. You really don't understand the scale of how big this is. This is like a gigantic case. This card is huge. I mean, this case is gigantic. So this is interesting. I'm not sure if we have a crossover here or a collaboration. I'm not sure what to call it, but this is the ROG NUC 16. So it's ASUS ROG, the Republic of the Gaming, and then NUC, which they took over from Intel 16 Edition 20. So there's a lot going on in here, but what it looks like is a high-performance, small form factor gaming PC. And of course, super over-the-top consumer wireless routers. And if routers couldn't get any crazier, look at this right here. This is wild. The ROG Rapture GT BE98 Pro Edition 20. I did see a handful of KVMs, so I decided to check out KVMs. It's pretty cool. A lot of industrial ones are managing KVMs at scale, so I figured I'd check them out. Oh, so are these presets?
Yeah.
Preset?
You find some preset. Yeah. You can some preset.
Yeah. You define
all this preset.
Yeah.
But
Inati.
Oh, zoom. Yeah.
Inati.
Oh, yeah. I got you. Enhance. This is basically KVM at scale. This is pretty advanced. You can see, over 1,000 scalability. Not only can you configure it but it also has a web management and stuff like that. So there were also lots of manufacturing companies there too. Okay, I am here at day 2 at Computex. I have to say that this is super overwhelming. I've never been to anything like this before. I've been to software conferences, but this is a little bit different because this is all booths all the time. And it's also hot in Taipei. You got this northern boy from Minnesota melting here. So I just got out of the ASUSTOR booth, and it was actually a lot better than I expected it to be. I walked up and I saw some security cameras, and that seems to be the theme with a lot of NASs. A lot of NASs are saying, oh, we'll also do physical security cameras so you can store your footage on a NAS device. They're also starting to do a lot of software integrations too, which I think is cool. And so they're putting together, they call a CMS, which the acronym could be improved, but Central Management System, where you can manage multiple ASUSTOR devices all through a Docker container. I don't know if it's open source, but self-hosted, and then you install agents on all your ASUSTOR servers. So then when I was there, I noticed a GX10, and they were actually running ASUS Claw, something that's kind of experimental with their NAS. Pretty cool concept that they're going to integrate with ASUS Claw and have some AI agents, working for you, and also locking down the security. They were saying you can have multiple agents. They're secured to a specific folder on the NAS, and they can only operate within that folder, which I think is pretty cool to see this integration. I did try to pay attention to a lot of small form factor PCs, a lot of cool mini PCs there. I kind of pushed off to the side. If it wasn't a GB10 platform, it was kind of hidden. But I managed to find some. I just got done visiting the ASRock booth, and there was a couple of things that caught my eye. They had some really cool mini PCs. They have a very interesting form factor. So they have an N150 that's in this really, really slim little form factor, and then an AMD version of that that's a little bit more powerful. But the interesting thing is how small and how slim they are. Most of the N150s you see out there look the same. These definitely look different. But you still need to get RAM and storage. It was DDR5, and they had an NVMe slot on one of them. And on the AMD variant, you could see that they had 2 NVMe slots and 2 DDR5 slots. So that's going to add to the cost too. But nice little units, very unique form factor. I also stumbled on the MINISFORUM booth, which was pretty cool. They were doing some announcements of some new AI NAS. It seems they're really focusing on AI storage, so AI NASs, along with AI on the edge, or things like the MSO3. The MSO3 seems pretty cool, seems like a refresh of the MSO1. Oh, and I did see Rob from NAS Compares there. Noctua is doing a lot of cool things. They're definitely branching out, starting to do water cooling, lots of B2B stuff and collaborations, like this mouse. Linus was there with his crew at the same time I was at the Noctua booth. We pretty much hung out. We're like best friends now. Noctua is also pushing this little carbon strip instead of thermal paste. Now, I'm not sure if that's a solution looking for a problem. I totally get the thermal dynamics and how over time thermal paste deteriorates, and using this strip instead will perform better in the long run. But whether or not people use it is to be determined. They're also dipping their toes into 3D printing because they're selling filament that exactly matches their classic brown and tan. A lot of innovations going on at the Noctua booth. It seems like they are an engineering company that also makes fans. A lot of cool stuff I think we're gonna see from Noctua, and a lot more than just fans. So I just got these ramen noodle snacks. Never had these before, but the funny thing is I've been crushing up ramen and eating it raw for a long time, so it's super interesting that this is an actual snack. I stopped by Seasonic because I noticed the Noctua Prime edition of their PSU. Turns out they're making another. They're also launching a Sakura edition that smells like a Sakura or cherry blossoms when you open it up, but it's only launching in Taiwan, so you won't get to smell that sweet, sweet cherry blossom if you were to open it up. And they're launching a 3200 watt PSU for, you guessed it, AI workstations. One of the other things they were working on, it was a prototype, was having Bluetooth built into their power supplies, and this really was for monitoring. They really haven't decided if it's going to be Bluetooth or USB or some kind of connection to actually monitor your power supply, but I really think that this is more diagnostic. All of the safety features that you could see within the monitoring are built into the power supply, so you're not getting anything extra. It's really just to see what the power supply is doing, and really for debugging or troubleshooting your power supply. Another surprising find was that they had an area dedicated to startups and innovation. NVIDIA had a gigantic booth that was dedicated to some of their startups, or startups that are using their technology. And I also stumbled on the open source Taiwan team. So I found this open source Taiwan booth, and I wandered through here and I met so many awesome people who are working on open source projects. It's actually pretty refreshing to see something like this here. And being a software developer myself, I really appreciate that they have a big booth like this and talking about all of the open source projects that they're working on. Now, this is a community built around open source for Taiwan, and they contribute to a lot of open source projects. And that community is also trying to get a younger generation contributing to open source. And I stopped by ASUS to check out all of their mini PCs, their new Spark RTX, along with their AI server infrastructure. Now, ASUS did pay for my flight and hotel, but they aren't sponsoring this video. But that's why you see the little flag down here at the bottom corner. They don't have any input into this video at all. I noticed that they had 4 GX10s stacked on top of each other. When I first saw it, I thought, great, more unified RAM, 512 gigabytes. But what I didn't notice was they were demoing some software behind it. Now, if you know the NVIDIA Spark software stack, it's not the greatest. It's a bunch of demos and it's you stringing together a bunch of solutions. But the software that ASUS is developing is helping you coordinate multiple devices. Now, they showed off 4 Sparks and giving each Spark a different role and then having a planner coordinate this role and basically building out a whole agentic team or a whole agentic workflow. Not only does it support GX10s, but it might support other ASUS products in the future, say like the ASUS NUC 16. And this makes sense for agentic workflows because they rely heavily on CPU, and rather than assigning those tasks to one of their GX10s, their expensive hardware, you could assign it to a lower cost machine and have it run that workflow. It sounds pretty interesting to me because I spent a lot of time configuring the 2 GX10s and I know how difficult it is to actually use this as a solution. So I'd love to have 2 more and then test out this new software solution if they ever release it. And of course they have the ASUS NUC 16 and the ASUS NUC 16 Pro. I'd love to test these out and upgrade my Intel NUC 11th gen at some point in the future. I did see the ProArt mini PC based on the RTX Spark up close, although I didn't really get to play with it a lot and they told me not to touch it. So ProArt, what do we have back here? So we have, let's see here, so we have
sorry about that.
Sorry. It does seem like a good fit because the ProArt series is geared toward creative professionals, and that's what the RTX Spark is going for. But with the ProArt series, they also guarantee stability. So we'll see if the RTX Spark can deliver that. Jensen was also there and stopped by the booth, and the guy's treated like royalty here. And he also stops by and signs all of the hardware from all of the different OEMs. And he's got a lot of big bodyguards too. I noticed the Sparkle booth, so I decided to stop by. If you're not familiar with Sparkle, they make a bunch of affordable Intel GPUs. I have one of the A380s that used to go for around $99. Tremendous value for what it is. So I decided to stop by their booth and see what was new. At the ASUS booth, they actually had their Vera Rubin hardware, and even though that was announced quite some time ago, they actually had their hardware there for you to see. Over here, we have the XAPAA E14 AXL liquid cooled. So this is the NVIDIA RTX Pro server. This can support up to 8 NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell server editions, so liquid cooled, 2 sockets for AMD EPYC 9006 series CPUs, and lots of expansion slots. This is a high-density 6U server for up to 8 single-slot liquid-cooled GPUs, and it integrates with NVIDIA ConnectX 8 switchboard design. Pretty beefy. And this is the NVIDIA MGX Vera CPU platform. So this gives you CPU for the edge of AI. So it can support up to NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell server edition, 2 NVIDIA Vera C2 CPUs. So those are those no Vera CPUs. It can support up to 1.5 terabytes of memory, has 16 slots, and has PCI Express Gen 6. But this is a high-performance 2U NVIDIA MGX AI server with those NVIDIA Vera C2 processors and support for up to 4 dual-slot GPU cards. And this is the XA-NR1i E12LR, and it's liquid-cooled. This is a powerful AI server with NVIDIA HGX Rubin NVL8, and it's powered by dual Xeon 6776 processors. This is the NVIDIA BlueField 4 data processor, and that powers the NVIDIA STX context memory storage platform. And this is all new storage infrastructure for AI and inference. I just took a look at the ASUS Vera Rubin, and now with agentic workflows kind of coming into focus, I think everybody needs to start focusing on powering those agents more so than powering the LLMs that power those. That's still important, but it seems like a big focus this here is on powering those agents. And you've probably seen it from your own agentic workflows that agents are becoming more and more popular. But a lot of cool stuff here. Overall, Computex 2026 was a great experience. It was very overwhelming and a little underwhelming at the same time. And what I mean by a little underwhelming is it's just a lot of AI stuff, a lot of data center builds, and a lot of B2B and enterprise AI infrastructure. So if you're not into that and you're not buying $1 million racks, you know, there's still some stuff to see, but not a lot. Everything that I saw was dedicated to building AI infrastructure and building AI data centers with NVIDIA's blueprint. They definitely left their mark in the space, and if you stop by any booth, all you're gonna see and hear about is the integrations with NVIDIA. I think I'm getting kicked out. I think I'm getting kicked out. It might be time to go, but wonderful experience. If you've never done it and you can do it, please do it. Huge thanks to ASUS for sending me here. I appreciate it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Tim. Thanks for watching. Oh, dang it. I locked myself out.